Fratres and sorors, this is another in our forum discussions, and on this occasion we are honored by the presence of our beloved Imperator, Frater Ralph M. Lewis, who will answer questions for us.
Mr. Lewis, how can one lead a harmonious life in this present world of strife?
Well, frankly, there has never been a harmonious world since the beginning of civilization. All we have to do is go back into history and find about the massacres, destruction. Mankind has been generally moved to destroy for fame and for possession and for just general aggression. Now, we're going to experience that for quite some time. The thing that we can do would be to be harmonious in our surroundings, to try and be constructive in every way we possibly can, and to keep ourselves free from some of the activist movements. Now, we should be active in things that we feel to form an association with people who want to change and revolutionize something is radical and keeps the things disturbed. So we have to be careful in our judgment and to think individually from within, I should say, personally, before we associate ourselves with any of the different movements that are going on today, if we want to be in harmony with society. But as far as creating a complete new society, you have to first create a complete new human being. I mean, in a sense, society consists of many persons, and therefore the individual has to raise himself up before you can expect to have a constructive society. I think history shows that from Rome and Greece and right on back into remote antiquity.
Mr. Lewis, I know the law of karma is unchangeable, but can karmic manifestations be modified? And if so, how?
Well, in the first place, let us realize that karma, the law of compensation, the law of causality, it is not a divine decree. It is a natural law which we invoke ourselves. For instance, if you throw a rock up into the air, you invoke the law of gravity. And if you stand underneath, you're hit by the rock. That doesn't mean you have been selected, you're being punished, or retribution. It's something you have created yourself. Therefore, there are three types of karma. That is karma of the past, where we have established something, some law, which is going to work adversely, perhaps, against us. So we weren't aware of it. Then there's the present karma, where we do something maybe maliciously, willfully, and we get the effect of it. Or there's karma that we set up for the future, what we do. But karma is not all a matter of punishment. Karma can be a reward. Now, if we find that we are facing a condition that is adverse, and we feel either that we realize we did something wrong and brought it about, or that we unconsciously may have, we can mitigate that to a great extent by invoking a laws of constructive nature, to do something harmoniously, something good, something righteous that follows our conscience, that works with nature. But we must realize that karma is completely impersonal. It makes no difference who you are or what you are. When you invoke the law, it happens. And the belief that karma is a divine decree that is set up to punish individuals is absurd. That's fatalism. We're not fatalists as Rosicrucians.
Sir, a frater from Chicago, Illinois has submitted the following question. I quote, "I have a feeling that willpower should be used very cautiously. When can we be sure that the use of willpower is not interfering with a higher purpose?" Would you care to comment on this, Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I think we should go to a psychological analysis for a moment of what will is. Will is the preferred desire. In other words, we are motivated all the time by desire. Sometimes we are not aware that it's a desire. It's almost a common thing or unconscious. We desire to open a door. We desire to go home. We desire to have something to eat. Our desires are motivated by our emotions and our appetites. Now, will is the preferred desire. When you will something, you will because it is that particular desire which is dominant at the time. And therefore, we have got to realize that when we are desiring something or willing ourselves to do it, to evaluate that will. In other words, it's a desire we want to do, we're going to do it. The will has preferred this particular thing. But why do we prefer it? What is the effect of it going to be on others and ourselves? Therefore, the obligation in pursuing our preferred desires or our will depends upon our first evaluation and not acting impulsively and doing something and then regretting it afterwards.
Well, in a sense, could we say that we should kind of tune in with what might be referred to as the universal will?
Well, what you mean by universal will, what we believe to be the cosmic righteousness and goodness, yes. I think that we should tune in with ourselves, more or less. When we get an impulsive desire, a dominant will to do this, I want to do that, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I want to go here, then we should stop to think, now, wait a minute, can I afford it? What's the effect going to be? And so on. Judgment, reason is the tempering of your will. Reason is the backlog, the backstage of will. In other words, when you will, your appetites can be, and your emotions can be forcing the will as a dominant desire to act. Then you should say, wait a minute now, let's reason this a little bit. But very few people reason. They are governed mainly by their emotions. If you reason and if you turn into it, to intuition, you will usually get an idea that will tell you, well, look, this isn't good. Then if you go ahead anyway, you suffer the consequences. But you'll have the chance to weigh it, as you say, if you tune with yourself, which we say is the cosmic will, the sense of righteousness that is born within each individual, but of course which varies with each individual. There's no universal sense of righteousness, or we'd have a really harmonious world, which we don't have.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, do animals reincarnate? Are there degrees or levels of consciousness in animals? Some of them would seem to be more aware than others from my observations.
Well, that goes back to the idea of soul first, in the first place. From a truly mystical point of view and a truly Rosicrucian point of view, there's a universal soul which flows through all human beings and is part of the vital life force, really. And therefore, everything that has vital life force has the essence of soul in it. And animals, therefore, do have the essence of soul. But they do not have that degree of self-consciousness to where they are aware that they have soul. It takes a complex organism like man, with its brain and a nervous system, to be aware that he has self, and will be acting accordingly with that self. Now, in animals, they have the essence of soul in them, because they have life force. It's in there. It's the intelligence that directs them. But you can see in the higher forms of animal life, in chimpanzee and dogs and so on, the development of self-consciousness. A dog will know when he's done wrong. He's ashamed. He's ashamed of certain things. A chimpanzee knows when they're doing wrong. When they're scolded, they show regret. That is the gradual evolution of self-consciousness, which shows that they have a soul essence within them, if you want to call it that. In fact, the matter is, there's very little distinction between what you call soul and self. If you ask the average person to tell you what soul is and then tell you where self is, you won't find a very much of a demarcation between the two.